JJ the CPA here. What will be different about PPP 2.0 compared to the first round? Let me tell you two things. One, the banks will be in a sheer panic to fund the applications they already have sitting on their desks. And why? Because these large banks know they're going to get a whooping, they're going to get fined, and there might even be some executives going to jail, because when they look back and they investigate 1.0, they will see that people were passed over. The small business was not put in the same position as the large ones. The large banks allowed the prize horses and the hogs to roll on the red carpet, while the small business by the government was held back 7 days. Those large companies and those that had the bigger relationships with these large banks were put in a priority when the law stated clearly it was first come, first serve, whether it was a $10,000 app or a $10 million app. These larger banks will be absolutely made out for the thieves that they were in allowing the small business to be shut aside, and from the big business standpoint to even get the money when the bank should have known they didn't even qualify. It's an absolute crime to find out just a week later that there were huge businesses taking millions and millions of dollars from this that were taking away from the small business. Why? Because the banks let them. The banks were the gatekeepers. For whatever reason in the PPP, it was set up that way. But by being the gatekeeper, they were the ones that also prevented the small businesses. They prevented the first applications from getting approved. Across the nation, I am seeing small business after small business that had applications in the first few days that ended up with no funding, when you have large businesses that ended up with it. The law stated that these loans were the government's money. They were to be booked by the banks, literally says in the law, at zero risk. The banks have no excuses. They do not get to follow their normal protocol. And so why am I saying all this? These banks are in sheer panic to make sure that those applications are on their desk, be able to get through. Why? So that when the whooping comes around and the investigations and the lawsuits come, they will be able to say, well, we did this in 1.0, but here's how we made it right in 2.0. Why does that really, really matter? Because these banks, like they should have done in 1.0, are going to do what they are in 2.0. Hopefully, these large banks, which is they're going to fight tooth and nail for those applications to be put in, which is going to make the money go that much faster. The other part is the government, for whatever reason, allowed the big businesses to go first, which gives the banks no excuses for still prioritizing the larger businesses. But the small business, the sole proprietor, the independent contractor had to wait a full week to even be able to apply, and days later it ran out. So in 2.0, rightfully so, $60 billion has been set aside for the small banks that will work with the small businesses, that will give them, those small businesses, sole proprietors and independent contractors, a fighting chance to get the funding that they desperately need, as well as starting on the same day. So 2.0, it's going to go lightning fast. Why? Because the banks are going to be more motivated than ever to make sure that their applications all get through, and the small business is ready to fight. They're ready to come, because they're going to be able to at least do what they should have been able to do in 1.0, which is start on the same day. So get ready. This money will go so quick, so fast. It'll be hours, not days. So for those of you that didn't get it in round one, you better be ready for round two. You better be aggressive. You better make sure your bank knows that you're on them. The fire needs to be lit, and there needs to be a blazing fire, knowing that you only have one more chance. Small business, medium business, large business, you only have one more chance to get the funding that you need. Go get it.